Hello, 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 everybody. We have a treat for you today. Welcome to this episode of the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. Y'all, listen, we were just backstage with my guest, and I don't just have one, not just two. I got three amazing guests, three amazing men who are in my life. They're friends, colleagues, and I cannot wait for you all to meet them. Today, we're going to be talking about raising future leaders, parenting from the male perspective. And the three men that I have here, I'm telling you, it couldn't be a better lineup if I had done it myself, and I did. Okay. So we're going to get into it, y'all, right after this. Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
We're well.
Yay. Okay. So I'm so excited for y'all to be here. This is going to be such an amazing conversation for us to have. And this conversation actually came about a little while ago when we were at, Dr. Onifade's nephew's graduation party. And we were just talking about raising kids and what it takes to raise successful children in this society and in the world that we actually live in today. And so I was like, you know what? We need to take this conversation to the people. We need to take it to the people because I think the people need to hear this because I think a lot of times we hear about raising children from a mother's perspective a lot, but we don't necessarily always hear about raising children from a father's or a male's perspective. And so I'm glad we was able to bring it to the people. I'm super excited to welcome y'all to the show. We are welcoming today, of course, none other than my better half, Dr. Jamil Ramsey, who's a friend of the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show on a regular basis. And then we are welcoming Dr. Eyitayo Onifade, and he is a longtime friend. We actually went to grad school together at the University of Georgia where we got our master's in social work, and then he's gone on to do some amazing things in his career as an academic and just all the things. And then we have none other than Nana Kobena Ankan the sixth. And I'm so glad that you're here. You become a friend to us. Your story and your background is so rich. And as much as I continue to learn, I'm always continuously interested in just your background. And so your perspective is so much welcome here. So welcome, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So I want to kick it off by just getting some quick introductions from you all because two of you are new to the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. So Dr. Onifade, I would love for you to start us off and kind of like give us a quick intro of yourself. And then while you do that, tell us what your biggest strength is.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Eyitayo Onifade. I have several hats. I'm a professor at Clark Atlanta University. I'm a community psychologist and social worker, and I am currently a life coach with the Good Place Health and Wellness. It's a practice of mine. Thanks for having me. Oh, yes. And I'm a father of two children. I have a son. His name is Eniola. He's 21 this month. He attends Clark Atlanta University, and my daughter, Falashade, is a senior at Pebblebrook High School in Georgia.
Yay. And your biggest strength is?
My biggest strength is radical acceptance.
Oh,
I know how to accept things.
I like that.
Yeah, a long time coming.
I think that needs to be pushed off on some of us too.
Here we go.
I love it. All right. Nana Kobena.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. First of all, let me thank Dr. Ramsey And it's wife and husband. So I guess I know both of them. So I just have to thank both of them. Thank Dr. Tayo for inviting me onto this show. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate that.
Glad you're here.
My name is Nana Okotwaresou Ankan Obekyie the sixth. I'm a traditional leader of Agona Nsaba in Ghana. Well, I live here in America. I got 2 kids. I have Asad Kweku Mensah and Adia Jesua Mensah. Asad is about to graduate high school next year, and Adia is going to high school. So yeah, my biggest strength, I guess for me it's all about the community and building our community together, and always trying to show to my community that every little bit count.
Mm.
Every positive move, little bit, it counts. So we should always be on the positive side. So
Okay.
that's all I'm about, positivity.
I love that. And as a positive psychologist, I can get with that. I love it. I love it. And Dr. Ramsey.
All right. So Dr. Jamil, also known as the Black Guy Who Codes, husband to the lovely Dr. Kiki Ramsey, also a proud graduate of the Clark Atlanta University.
Ooh, see you. See you in the house.
Yep. We represent today. All right. So friend of the show, longtime technologist, also a full-time professor at Life University. And my superpower is strategic thinking.
Strategic thinking. And together we have 3 kids. So Mackenzie, who's 7, Walter, who's 5, and Tamazie, who is 29. So we have
and
we have a grandbaby. Is that what you? And our grandbaby Mozzie. So who is I don't know, 7, 8 weeks. So he's
congratulations.
Yes, thank you. He's a new baby. So, all right. So, thank y'all for that. Love it. Love that you all told us about your superpower. So, I really want to know from your standpoint, what does it mean to be a father, both personally and professionally?
I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, I was talking to my kids the other day because, we had, Father's Day, and they took me out for dinner and they paid for the dinner.
Yes.
And, this is a new experience, right? My kids are emerging adults, and parenting is just a completely different experience than what I'm accustomed to. I'm used to being a parent of children. And for myself, like I said, my son is 21 years old, and you guys remember, I've been a parent and responsible for someone else my entire adult life.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's my identity, being a father. It's what gets me up in the morning. It's what motivates me. And it's fascinating because when I look at my career, when I started adulthood, I was this huge Black activist, changed the world, and that was the most important thing to me, right? But, now, like parenting, literally being a father, that's the thing that defines me the most, I think.
Wow. That's always interesting because I've known you for a long time, and yeah, the activist. Although I don't think it has died in the sense, but because you still are who you are. But it is. I love it that you say that parenting has defined you the most, or in this moment defines you the most.
Yeah, you guys might remember Tupac Shakur was like my favorite rap artist, back in the day. And I remember I was reading his biography, and he talked about his mother. And as you guys know, his mother was a Black Panther. And Tupac told a story about how sometimes it felt when he was growing up that his mother loved Black people more than she loved them, his siblings. And I was like, wow, I never want my kids to say that.
Dang. Yeah.
And that's just, it's amazing how, your children really just like, they come to be the most important thing that you've ever, or raising your children comes to be the most important thing that you've ever accomplished, regardless of what you do as far as your career is concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Nana, Dr. Jamil?
Well, for me, I think it's being a father really changed my whole perspective, because I was also living in Australia. And that's where I conceived my son. So I traveled to Ghana to go and get my document to come to the States. So whilst I was in Ghana, my son was born. I remember when I told my dad, he called me in the room and told me that, well, now that you got a child, it's no more about friends. You need to really take care of that child. So when I came to America, he was 11 months old.
Wow.
And then I went straight to work. I became a father. Go to work, come home. Go to work, come home. That was all that day. And it's amazing, like Brother Tayo was saying. Sorry, Professor.
No, I prefer brother.
Thank you. The phases of being a father or being a parent is beautiful. It's, although that it is challenging, it is very beautiful too. So I think parenting must change you. And if you allow yourself that it changes you, you grow.
Yeah.
You grow.
Yeah.
So I guess those are some of the stuff that parenting has done to me.
I love that. It changes you. It has to change you. I mean, if it doesn't, I don't know what will, right?
Yeah, I know for me, growing up, my father was my hero. He was my first teacher, my first protector, my biggest disciplinarian. Although he didn't do it a lot, when he did it, he was the big stick. And just the safety and love I have from my father is something that I wanted my children to experience. Just to know that they have this person that's there that's going to be able to pour into them and protect them, and more importantly, prepare them for the world out there that doesn't care about them the same way mom is going to care about them.
Yeah. I love that. I more and more as I just grow older and wiser, even in my years, I think that is so important for parents to have both parents, but I do see the significance of them having their fathers in their lives, right? Like I can't tell the significance. And for me, it came to a head very early on when I was in undergrad. I had a professor who challenged me, and I can remember to this day. Shout out to Andrew Baskin if you're watching. But he challenged me one day in class, and he said, "Do you think that a woman can raise a boy to be a man?" And most of y'all know me. I'm really strong. I'm strong-willed. I'm strong-minded. And when I think something, you gonna know it. And I argued him down. I'm like, absolutely, I can teach a man, a boy to be a man and all these kinds of things. And he challenged me so hard that day. And I was so angry at him because he was telling me, no, you can't. You're not a man. You don't have a lived experience. And I'm like, but da-da-da-da. So it was that conversation that really made me think about that question and whether I could teach a boy to be a man. And then I ultimately came to the conclusion that I couldn't. But it took that challenging of my thought processes to realize that I couldn't teach my son Tamaze what he needed to know, because I didn't have a lived experience of a man and he needed a male figure in his life. And so I really realized how important it is. And so for me, once I had that conversation, I was dead set on finding positive male role models for him to grow up around. And I was so blessed that, ultimately married Jamil, and he became the permanent role model for him in our lives. But it was that turning point for me to realize that you guys matter so very much. And so what I want to know is, what childhood or just experiences in your life has caused you to parent the way that you parent? Because we all have different parenting styles. Myself, I have my own parenting style. But and me and Jamil, we parent differently a lot of times as well. Although I find us now on the same page a lot of times, but we still may disagree about some things. But what childhood or what experiences have you had in your life that has caused you to parent the way that you parent now?
Well, I'll go first. Yeah, a little bit of self-disclosure. I'm a third culture kid. My parents were, they're African immigrants, but I was born here. And, growing up, I had the experiences that most immigrant kids have. Your parents are kind of tough on you, and they're these disciplinarians. I was listening to Jamil, and he was saying that his dad was his teacher. And I had an experience like that as well. I remember my dad and I were going through some things in terms of our relationship when I was in high school. And I remember, I got angry with him one day, and I told him, it's like, sometimes it feels like you're more my teacher than my friend. At the time, I didn't know how ridiculous I sounded. But, now that I have, my son and my daughter, I realized just how valuable that was to have someone that could give me the guidance and give me the instruction, so I didn't have to go through a lot of the things that my peers were going through in their environment, who didn't necessarily have active fathers in their lives. Yeah. So as far as, my parenting is concerned, I think one of the most important jobs or roles that I have is to be that teacher, for them, so that their lives are easier than my life or even my father's life.
Yeah. Do your kids accept your teaching, or is that,
Well, again, I'm a third culture kid, so I've tempered some of the, I've watered down a little bit of the Yoruba disciplinarian part of the parenting. And I try to just take the best of both worlds in terms of, some of the progressiveness that we have in American culture. Yeah. And some of the conservative values that we have in Yoruba culture. And I think it's kind of worked out in terms of my kids that I see them being very well adjusted and also very emotionally healthy in ways that I think are important. So I would say that they've accepted. I'm very proud of them. They've done really well. They're doing very well.
They are great. They are great kids.
It's funny, like I grew up in poverty, public housing, so a lot of my rearing is centered a lot around protecting yourself from immediate threats. I find as we've grown and progressed in our career, now it's less about immediate threats, but more of trying to figure out how to prepare the children to protect them against themselves. With so much, the times have changed so much, and there's so much access to information and things. Now it's less physical threats, but more of how to tamper that naiveness and precociousness and keep it from being harmful. I think we used to we used to have to tell kids, you could be anything you want in this life. Now they see so much that we have to tell them, we need to figure out what we want to be, because you've seen too many things to say you can be anything. And it's like a complete flip on the perspective we have to come to now as far as what opportunities look like and how to help children have good, healthy expectations. Yeah, that's it. That's all I would say. My biggest goal now is to try to help kids manage expectations and manage to their strengths, and not to get too down on themselves when they see all these things on social media streams and people talking about all these opportunities and riches and all these things that people pretend they have, and just managing expectations and saying, hey, let's look at our strengths and let's figure out how to build a life that serves you and serves the rest of the world.
Yeah, no, I love that. I can also remember too, like we grew up very similar in the sense of, you know, growing up in poverty and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I grew up around yelling and, you know, getting spanked and stuff like that. And I can remember when we decided to have, you know, more children, how we talked about discipline and everything like that. And I'm like, what you mean we ain't gonna whoop these kids? I was whooped. Look at me. Okay. And but you know, I can remember vividly you saying, yeah, I get it. But I don't feel like you have to inflict violence to teach a person or to teach a child how to not have violence or to display violence. And I'm like, who would that make sense?
And I'm not against spanking. I don't think it'll ever leave, but it's not the first tool out the toolbox.
Right. So I love that.
Well, I think that this way that my grandfather taught me has really stuck with me, and I'm trying to use that in whilst I'm raising my children. Is that, you know, as a parent, sometimes here in America, what I've noticed is that if the man can be there, excuse me, if the man can be in the children's life as much, it will really help. And not just be there, but use your whole life as an example to deal with them. And see, back in the day, our parents, they never explain the reasons why they tell us to go do something. So I always tell my children now that, look, you've got the opportunity here because I tell you to go do this and I explain it to you. I give you the reason why you need to go and do that. I was just saying, go and do this. And I'm like, why should I go do that? You know, I'll get spanked, you know. But they got an opportunity whereby these modern parents now, we explain to them, go do this for these reasons. So I think if we can deal with the children, especially the boys, because the girls are always loving, mom can take care of that. But when it comes to the boys, yeah, if the men can be there some more and then use their whole life as an example in leading them, it will really help. I said to my son the other day that if I didn't have my own kids, I would have thought that my grandfather was very mean for the way he disciplined me, or I would say for the way that he taught me. But when I have my own kids, I realize that I'm saying the same things that he used to tell me to my son.
Yeah.
Like, man, I thought that as you are getting older, things will be easier. And my grandfather used to tell me that. or as you are getting older, you will get wiser.
I love that.
Mm.
I love that. I love that. You know, it brings up a question, right? Both of you, all three of y'all have girls and boys, right? Y'all are girl dad and boy dad. That's right. Is it easier or is there a difference in parenting your girls as than you parent your boys?
I think it's different from the perspective of boys process emotions differently than girls. I mean, this is misconception that boys and men are emotional, but men are very emotional. It's that we express it physically and if uncontrolled violently. So you can be a little bit easier with the girl because they're going to express their emotions softly. You can navigate through that experience a little bit easier, but with boys it's a lot more extreme until they get to a point where they can find some balance in how they communicate and how they express themselves. Why if you look at how Trey, he always gets so angry and all this stuff, and it's just like we have to figure out to get him to navigate those emotions a little bit more softly and less aggressive. That's the biggest difference. But neither is easier.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, it's an equal boat in terms of the challenge, but I think it does come down to the personality of your children. So I don't know if it's a gender thing as much as it's an individual thing. My son and my daughter share a lot in common, but there are definitely differences in just their personalities as far as, my daughter, she's a little bit more extroverted and my son is a little bit more introverted. So it requires different strategies in terms of just navigating their personality types. And I think as parents, we have to, we can't come with this like prepackaged idea of like, this is what I have to do as a parent. You have to actually be flexible and look at your child and see what they individually need.
Yeah, I love that. Me and Jamil were just talking about how we were going to continue because we had started this and we're going to continue to separate the kids and have like mommy daughter day, daddy daughter day, mommy son day, that kind of thing, because they act differently when they're around us and not each other. Like you can see their whole personality come out. And I think it's important to be able to separate them. And our kids are very close in age. And so it's really hard to separate them a lot of times. And so we have to be intentional about it. Because if we're together, what I do for one, I have to do for the other, or else there's a whole, argument that ensues. And so I think that that's important. Nana, anything about raising girls versus boys?
Yeah. My daughter is 14 years old. And for me, I think maybe from what Dr. Eyitayo was saying, I think it's good because you probably have to deal with them as individuals. But I think the girls are still a little easy because you just show them love. And unless obviously, like Dr. Tayo is saying, unless their character is so bad. But if they are okay, by a little tap here and there, they get it. But the boys, naturally, I don't know whether we all will be on the same page on this. The boys are more to their mom and the girls are more to their dad. And so when you have a son and you're dealing with him, it's like you are dealing with two people. Because when he goes to his mom, it's more like good vibes. Because mom is loving, mom sharing the vibe, but dad is disciplined. Like, have you done your work? Have you, we are like, that person. So I think the girls are a little easy. I think so. That's what I think.
Any comments, y'all?
I don't know about that. I will say this, that Sade cares about things like Father's Day, birthdays, and things of that nature. So, you know, maybe there is something to girls gravitating towards, you know, dads, and sons, they're like, that's dad.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's dad.
Exactly.
But, you know, but again, my son's the oldest, right? So, you know, if there's a person on the planet that I've been with my entire adult life, it's him. You know, there's no other person that I've been with, as you know, as long as my son. And I think there's a level of familiarity between the two of us that makes it so that I find him relatively easy, you know, in terms of managing him. Whereas my daughter, there are things that she experiences as a female that I can't relate to, you know, in a direct way. So, you know, I have 3 sisters. You know, I run to my sisters all the time when she has questions that I can't answer. You know, so I guess for me, I find her a little more challenging, just because, you know, I don't necessarily know the girl adolescent experience the way I know my son.
Yeah. That's a good I think both of those perspectives are great. I mean, I think it goes back to kind of like what I was saying earlier, how I couldn't raise a boy to be a man, how you all can't necessarily raise a girl to be a woman, but your presence is necessary, right? And so having other women in your daughter's lives and stuff like that is always very important, because we can't discount either side when it comes to parenting. So
I think as far as my daughter is concerned, one of the things that I think is so important is teaching her what to expect from the opposite sex.
Oh yes. Me and Jamil have had that conversation so many times.
Like, to me, it's like, look, this is the way I treat you. This is the way the other males that are in your life, that I've allowed in your life, treat you. So this is what you should expect. Don't just accept any, type of thing. So, that piece I think is the teacher part, in terms of teaching the opposite gender when you're raising them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when we were younger, my sister, I believe she had to be about 14 or 15-ish at the time, hitting that rebellious stage, want to go out and do stuff. And my father told her, you need to stop going to these parties with these older kids and these older people, because it's dangerous. Something can happen to you. So of course she's defiant. Ain't nothing gonna happen to me. I'm good. Ain't nothing happen. He was like, okay. A second later, he grabbed her and put her in the chokehold and told her to get out this toll. And she couldn't. And then he told her, this is what I'm talking about. You are confident until you're not. And that's a lesson that only a father can really give. Me, I'll try to do it a little bit differently in 2024, but the idea is different. The idea is still the same, is that as fathers, we perceive danger in a different ways than our children and our female children, especially in the climate now where there's so much access to police and social structures for protection, that we can be oblivious to the real dangers that are out there. So having a father is definitely necessary, because we look at the world the way the world looks at us.
Yeah. I know for me, as being a woman, not always growing up with my father and everything like that, I think had I learned what you are teaching, Sade, Dr. Tayo, it would have, things might have, turned out a little bit differently, or I might have, felt a little bit more protected in the world in which I lived. But it was definitely not that. And I might have not been, out in the streets doing all kinds of things that I need to be doing. Right. So I think that's, I think that's so very important. Yeah. So tell me, what values or any kind of practices from, your upbringing, your culture, do you incorporate into your parenting right now? I would be remiss to say that this is a panel of all Black men and women, and happy Juneteenth to everybody. So, but I mean, I think that, we're talking about, this parenting and raising future leaders, because we'll get to that question as well. But I think I'd be remiss to not point out that sometimes we have different cultural values than other people have, and we have different perspectives in the way that we raise our kids. And so is any of that coming into play in terms of how you parent right now?
Well, when it comes to cultural values, I think here in America, the children don't really see adults as they need to give them a respect. Like in Ghana, adult is an adult. And you, the child, you don't really get the chance to be able to go back and forth with the adult like that. Because, in the whole community, that is what it is practiced. So over here, the little things I do is like when grandma is around, I try to make sure that the kids are able to, example, when she finished eating, somebody need to go and get her plate. And that's not something that they are used to.
Yeah.
But that's something that I think I am trying to introduce into their life. That's how you deal with our elderly people,
Yeah. It's a good lesson to learn, period.
Yes.
Having that reverence and respect for elders. It's hard because we see too many adults now trying to relive their youth.
What does that mean? What does that mean? They booked and busy, okay?
No, I mean, there's a definite undercurrent of ageism that people don't want to accept in the American culture. No one wants to be old. Being old isn't respected, to Nana's point, in the same way that it was in previous generations. And a lot of things are about recapturing you. Skin treatments, surgery, 50 and 60-year-old people getting back on the dating market. Just a lot of things in which a generation or two where people will be slowing down. Now we have older people competing in the spaces of where younger people are trying to find their space and their legs, and it gets a little bit confusing. Even in my own personal life, I know a lot of people who would scoff at being called grandma.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be called grandma, so it's okay. Gonna call me out. Gigi is just fine. And I don't mind getting older. I just, I think, but I do agree with you in the sense that, we have a younger generation of just, people who are grandmothers. Like, I mean, me being, 47 or almost 47 as a grandmother, that seems, it seems young to me, right? When in actuality, like it may be our grandparents may have been this young when we were young, and I get it, but I don't feel like that. Like I don't feel like it. So, but I embrace still being a grandmother and getting to this age, because it's not promised.
Yeah, that's a part of it. It's just the times have shifted where, our ages, we would have been considered old and pillars of the community. And now we just feel younger than we really are because we live longer. We're a lot healthier. The time is extended, but because of that, a lot of kids have been stunted in a way, a lot of failure to launch, so if we could get back to some of that, it will be helpful, but I think the horse is already out the gate on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've had to personally re-examine my own definition of respect, because I was raised in a household where respect was this idea of like not questioning authority and kind of being deferential. And Nana was saying a little bit earlier that he raises his children a little bit differently now. He doesn't just expect obedience without question. He actually explains instructions. And I think that as parents, we have to kind of internalize that lesson that just because your child questions you or questions something, that's not disrespect in and of itself. Because I think we kind of erode their self-confidence and their own empowerment, their own agency, when we have these expectations of respect being deference and just being uncritical, of things that are presented to them, presented to you.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, Trey's his favorite question is why? Why? and then why again, right? And I'm like, and I don't take it as, disrespect, unless it has tone. and we have to teach him, teach our kids about tone, because tone matters, and that's a communication style. And so I can remember growing up, and I still do it to this day, but as out of respect for adults and elderly people, I would always put Miss in front of their name, right? Or Mr. in front of their names, right? And that's something that we teach our kids now. You don't address an adult without some kind of proposition in front of it, right? It's Uncle Tayo, is Aunt Yinka, Auntie April, or is Miss Amy or whatever. So we always do that, and that's a respect thing, and that's how I grew up. And we always used to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. Right. And I think that has gone out the door. Right. And so I don't necessarily teach my kids yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. But we do teach them yes, thank you. No, thank you. Right. Don't come saying yeah. No, that's disrespectful. And it's not it's not appropriate. Right. So I think, although it seems a little bit different, there's still some of those cultural values floating around, but I do see that they are less and less as these generations pass us by, because we are more progressive in our thought processes and the way that we teach.
Right. It's like what you were talking about is, manners, as a sign of respect. But also remembering that respect is regard. And the same way we have like love languages, we have language of regard. And the example of clearing the plate of the elderly person, that's service. And you can show respect and regard to elders in your family by doing service. There's nothing wrong with servitude as as a form of respect. When you guys come over to my house, I ask you, do you want anything to drink? Do you want anything to eat? And it's service. There's nothing wrong with that. Kobe, Nana, he when he comes to my house, he always brings a gift. That's a language of regard, and that's respect. And I think teaching our kids that respect is about regard, and demonstration of regard. I think that's extremely important. I think it's very pro-social, and it just kind of makes things better. It makes it so that even as they become older, they know how to interact with others that are their peers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's a good. It just made me think about one of the things that I really want the kids to get is that the world doesn't only revolve around them. And if we can really break through the natural desire to be self-centered and to be more service-oriented, to your point, Dr. O, that that we can make some progress, because it's a big narrative in the modern culture of look out for you and make sure you get everything that's due to you.
Right.
And just trying to shift that more towards you get more when you give more and you build a better community.
Right. Speaking of building communities, right? We're talking about, ultimately raising our children to be future leaders, because that's exactly what they are, right? They are the ones who are going to be running our societies, our communities. They're the ones who are going to be running for political offices in the future and all of that. And so I think it's important, because I truly believe that what they learn and where they start is at home, right? Like they live with me before I ever send them to school, right? Before we ever send them out into the world. And so what do you believe are some qualities that are essential for us to grow up these future leaders?
Well, I think I'll just go back to the servitude, because what actually maybe a lot of us or the children that are growing these days don't really know is that service is really like a leadership.
Mm-hmm.
To be a leader, you must know how to serve. You must know how to serve. I always give this example to my son about Obama becoming a president. Now, here it someone that has finished higher education and could have worked for any company, corporate America, and make his own personal money. But he decided to work in the community and get engaged with the community. So Obama was put in there by the community. Now, if he had only think about himself, then he would probably be still working.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's a young man and he's on pension. And it's because of his service. It's his service. So we should really instill in our young leaders. It's really about giving service.
I love
It's
that.
really about that. Because even at all, when you are going to look for a job or these positions, sometimes the person that will let you pass, they don't need your credentials. They are just looking at your attitude, the way you come off. Are you coming to serve, or you are coming to take a position and make yourself a big man?
Mm-hmm.
So when you see that service attitude in you, I think they let you go, because they know that you are for the good of the whole, for the good of the whole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that.
I love that. Just this idea of getting away from leadership being about power and privilege and authority, and getting back to what it means to be a public servant. I mean, if we look in our political space, not to get too political, there are certain individuals who are definitely self-interested, and it's just accepted by the public that they're self-interested, and that's not good for the community.
Yeah.
The measure of leadership should be whether or not this individual cares about actually serving the people.
Right.
So I think that is a fundamental value that we have to instill in our children, the importance of servitude and service.
And I'll throw in strong critical thinking skills. We can put those two things together. We have a heart for service, and you can take in information and make good decisions. I think that's a good recipe for leadership.
I do too, which is the reason why I think Dr. Tayo, you said something about children being able to question and it not be taken in a negative way. I think that's where that strong critical, thinking comes into play, is that when we allow our children to question the world, because if they can't grow up and be curious, when will they ever learn how to do that? Right? We need to grow up and be able to question the world and everything. So I love this, y'all. We're heading downhill with this, and I mean, this has been such a rich conversation. So I would love to know what strategies do you use to build confidence and resilience in your children, and what strategies can the Kiki Ramsey family use to build that in their children as well as they grow up to be the leaders that we want them to be in our society for today, because it's hard out there. Like it's hard out there. And so, but what strategies or tools are you using that others can probably use as well?
That's how I'll go. I try to create an environment where failure is safe, where the kids can try things, and I can let them know that this is an environment where things aren't always going to go well, but we want to learn something every time so we can get better. To try to get them so that they can really continue to build some resilience and overcome adversities.
Yeah. Oh, that overcoming adversity is so key. Oh my God, it's so key to let them know that they can fail and that they need to build resilience. I'm actually writing a course right now on building strategic resilience, and I just realized that because I had such a rough upbringing, my resilience level is very, very high, and I now know that I need to allow my kids to fail early so that their resilience level can be high as well. Because when that doesn't happen, that then becomes a handicap for them in their older age.
Yeah, I think you knocked it out of the park. Just this, treating childhood and adolescence like it's a safe space to make mistakes within limits. I like to say that you don't want to make mistakes that you can't get up from underneath.
Yeah.
So, especially with my son now, who's, basically an adult, he's at that age where, he's dealing with women, he's dealing with, his, preparation for his career, he's dealing with, he's adulting. And he comes, he's encountering situations that have consequences that go beyond, next week. And I just try to make sure that he understands that whatever decision that you make sure it's a decision that you can live with 10 years from now.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I think, it's almost like an affirmation that I need to put on what Dr. Tayo said. When they are taking a decision, it must be a decision that they can live by, and it mustn't be so destructive that it will really affect them along the way, or it can make them move forward in their day-to-day pursuit. So,
Okay. Well, I would love to know what final words would you give to another father out there as they navigate this world of raising their children to be our future leaders?
I'll go.
Say something. Okay, go ahead.
I would just say that the details are, well, first I'll preface this with saying that if you are of sound mind and body, the average person, you don't always have to have the answers, but if you're present, it'll come along.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really proud of this generation of fathers. I don't think that this generation of fathers gets enough credit because I remember, when we were coming up in the 80s, in the 90s, absentee fathers was like, was pervasive. Like it was just all over the place. But that's, the community psychologist is coming out. That's not the case these days. We have CDC research out there that's showing that at least Black fathers spend the most time with their children of any group of fathers in America. And that's a shift. And that's, I think, a lesson that came from the way we were raised. I think we're trying to do better than the experiences that we had. So I would just, pat us on the back and say, come on, let's just keep doing some of the things that we've learned to do in terms of being invested in our kids, teaching them respect as a form of regard, making sure that our kids are raised to have agency and the critical thinking skills that Jamil was talking about. We know what we're doing. Let's do it.
Yeah. That's a strengths-based perspective. Love it. Let's capitalize on what's already going right. I love that.
Well, I guess it's really all about being there. It's really all about being there. So because, we have all our everyday issues. So as a parent for especially our male children, we just have to be there. We just have to be there.
I love it. Your presence is a gift.
Yes.
Your presence is a gift. Oh my God. Thank you all so very much. So before we head out, I would love for you all to tell the Dr. Kiki fam what's going on with you and how can they get in touch with you for any other advice or support if needed.
All right. Like I said, I'm a life coach with the Good Place Health and Wellness. You can find our practice on Psychology Today, as well as IG. I'm Dr. O at the Good Place on IG. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, you can find me on all my socials at Black Guy Who Codes.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm on TikTok on Okotwaresou on the TikTok.
Perfect.
And yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
Actually, we have some annual things that we do in Ghana. So parents that would like to change the perspective of their children, because I think that balance is also needed, especially if you can afford it. You take them on that trip to some of the festivals that we have there in Ghana. And that will also change their perspective, because when they see what the kids have over there and they come over here and they see what they have, they will see that they are truly a blessed family.
Blessed.
Mm-hmm,
Blessed.
mm-hmm.
Well, we're gonna be making the pilgrimage. We're gonna be yes, we're gonna be making it because I think it is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I mean, this has really been such an enriching conversation. I know I've taken a lot from it, you know, just being a woman listening to a male's perspective, but I also hold each one of you near and dear to my heart. So I respect your opinion anyways, but I love hearing y'all when you just kind of talk about things that matter so much to you. So thank you so much, y'all. I appreciate y'all. I can't wait to have y'all back on the show again.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And everybody, if you love this episode, please share it with somebody who you care about. And you can find the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show on all of your podcast channels. And if you're a woman who wants a supportive community in a coaching environment, join us over at happywomenlead.com. All right, y'all. Till next time. Peace out.